It's Quant Trade Edge, and today we were going to look at, there were several setups today of our classic Forex trade, and many of them hit 7 and more, times your risk. This setup here is copper, and this bar was a perfect bar for many reasons. Red body, long upper tail, and this red dot here signifies an anticlimax pattern, which is just the high between here and here, or I should say the high between here and here is greater than the high between here and here, which is greater than the high between here and here. So you have accelerating highs, especially when that closes with a red body. The break below that is typically a good sell. So in addition to just being a good bar in isolation, it's also part of a pattern. So if we go back and look at the when it broke low of day, it broke low of day right here on at 7:30 p.m. and it went down to here, and then on a 5-minute, this is all inside this hoagie. I mean, you can see the attempt the first time it made a lower low in a bar. This thing is a hoagie. I tend to discount stuff inside a hoagie. If you pulled it up on a 3-minute, you would have had the two distinct swings. So really, it's just kind of discretionary to some extent. It's not, 100%. If you, on a 3-minute, this was the hoagie, this broke the hoagie. So it is a clean ABC. On the 5-minute, this is, I guess, what Al Brooks would call a 2E, because you had an attempt at a push below. But either way, if you look at this 5-minute bar, high and the low, we're talking about 35 ticks. And then this went from 388.40 to 384.50. That's 384.85. Later it went down to 384.50. So talking about 10 to 1, 35 pip risk, and a little over 4. So probably a 12 to 1 if you took it all the way to the low. Similarly in silver, so before this turned into a big green bar, this was an outside red bar that broke below previous day low. And when it did that, right here, it gave a very clean, A, B, C on the 10-minute. And this high to low, see, these both have the same high to low, so this was an inside bar. So we use this bar of 4 cents, 90.5 to 94.5. So call it 5 cents if you use your entry and your stop. But I usually measure the multiples off of just the bar length. So here's 60, so 30 cents off of a 4-cent bar. Again, that's 7.5, or 6 if you use the 5 cents. Just to follow our method here, that's the risk, and this would have been your return up to 6 times, wherever you chose to take it off in there. If you chose to take it off at 2, at 4, 6, you would have gotten it. What else was there? Let's see. Gold. I'll do gold at the end. So Australian dollar is extremely interesting, because it came down and it touched the previous day low. It didn't exceed it, it touched it. But for a bar to remain inside, it has to be strictly greater than the low, strictly less than the high. So this could not be an inside bar, in which case it took the label of the previous bar. So as soon as it broke, it did change directions. Now, that's I've never really spent a lot of time thinking about it because, you know, how many times does a coin land on its side when you flip it? But you know, when I thought about it deeper, that's kind of what I come up with, and that is, you know, for an inside bar, you need a strictly equation. So this did, you know, pierce. Just touching it does pierce. And here on a 30-minute chart, you had a clear ABC down, ABC up, I'm sorry. And this bar is about 16. And let's see, did we get 64 from there to 08? We did not. Very interesting. Okay, so we got about 3R before it reversed. From here, we got about 3.5 maybe. But this high to low, it's about 15.5. You would have needed 62. Oh no, I'm sorry, 62. You did get it. Down to 20 was 4R. Is down here. So that was 4R. Now I saved gold for last because it's the most interesting. Starting out with the daily again. So before this was a big green outside bar, it was a big green, a big red downside bar. Actually, I'm sorry, it wasn't. It put its tail up until later, so it was just a red bar breaking below this green bar. And you know, having a green bar is not ideal, but this was a small green body, big upper tail. Thought it would be okay. And here, let's see what happened. Down on a 5-minute, when this broke below the previous day low, you got a clean A, B, C up. That was very clean. And then it did go down and make, you know, at least 1R off of that. But then over here, you got a U-turn, right? By breaking that, you got a U-turn. So then you get a gut check. And after the gut check, we just rallied. And I've seen this exact same pattern also before news on gold in particular. So that's something I'm going to start looking out for more consciously. When we break the low of day, we get our ABC and make a U-turn before news, especially. That seems to be a good setup for a long here. So that was the main stuff that was of interest today. You know, the markets did get very active. Something I'm keeping an eye on is just that the way that this day started, the dollar was very, very strong. You had you had gold breaking down. You had the Australian dollar breaking down. The Australian dollar here, you know, has a broke down a head and shoulders, and now it's going this way to actually put in a head and shoulders failure. That's what I think is going to happen here. That'd be a stop above 64.35. And then, you know, when you look at the euro, it did the same thing. It took out the low and then, you know, put in a big green candle. It's still a down bar. We needed to take out this high here. But it almost seems like the dollar tried to rally, turned back around and collapsed. And if we get follow through on that, that would, you know, with the dollar weakening, that kind of gives you the story for a strong bounce back in the stock market. So we'll see. We'll see. You know, we don't want to build scenarios and live in our heads. We have to trade what's in front of us, but that's just a scenario to be aware of. So if things start playing out that way, I've already got my game plan for how I would handle that situation. So anyway, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. Our Discord's going strong. Join in, ask questions, help out if you're a more experienced trader. Oh, I guess one other thing I did forget to mention is there is a good 4x setup in the Russell. So, you know, this is just now triggering. So we broke above the high. Let me put the high in. So I'm sorry, going back to the daily. beautiful candle, almost a piercing line, green body, lower tail. So when we break out of the high, as we did here, this time the pattern that was created was a hoagie. From here to here, there's your hoagie. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bars inside before we broke above, came back in, and we're going. So really this hoagie, this 86.60 down to 81.70, this 5-point bar, that is our entry hoagie for the Russell. And there you go. It's a gift because it's right there right now. But anyway, like I was saying, our Discord is going strong. Welcome to join over there and ask me questions. Happy to answer them.